attention. Welcome to Bible Bootcamp. It's time to learn the art of endurance. Let's do it.
D&D my telephone. I like to be drama free. Can't just live off bread alone. Lucy try to pop at me.
So the reason I'm even talking about endurance is because over these last few months I've been going through the wilderness unwillingly. But I definitely have been going through the wilderness. And because I have been going through the wilderness, I've been asking God, like, God, what's the play? What am I supposed to do? I'm trying to understand what you're trying to show me in this season. Whole time, he threw me in 1 Kings, because now I'm finna give y'all some history. Roll the history clip. So when I first got into it, I'm like, God, how am I supposed to endure? And I don't understand what's going on. So God leads me to where? He leads me to 1 Kings. Again, I don't understand what 1 Kings has anything to do with enduring. I'm confused. I'm over here talking about 1 Kings is talking about King Solomon. That's when he ran. And then he fumbled it all over some women. That's what I'm like, oh gee. Make it make sense. I'm lost.
No, I'm not trying to open a lock. I don't need combination. I just ask you a simple question.
And so I continued to read. And the purpose of God bringing me to 1 Kings was to show me a history of what a lot of people have to go through whilst enduring. So there's a generational thing here. So, peep game. So initially, the first king of Israel was King David. He was a wartime king. He fought all the ites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, everybody was getting scrapped up in Swiss cheese with King David, right? And he was faithful to what God called him to do, ensuring that the kingdom of God, the kingdom of Israel, was expanding, right? That was what David's job was. He was scrapping from a little baby, scrapping with lions, tigers, and bears, to when he fought Goliath. He was being prepared to lead Israel through a time of war in which they had enemies all around them. Cool, follow me. So, on King David's deathbed, though he was unable to truly experience the peace in which God had him fight for, he was able to pass that blessing down to his son, King Solomon, who then was able to preside over a period of peace where Israel had no enemies around it, right? And so following that, we can see a lineage there that David had to endure, but his enduring provided opportunity and blessing and peace and many other things for his son, King Solomon. And so King Solomon living a calm life, but here's where the connection meets, right? So with King Solomon, we're reading and understanding what made David's enduring so important to how it's effective to Solomon. The second generation was able to reap the benefits. And I'm gonna put up the verse right here. So we'll take care of the generation before and after us. That's an important thing. So the things that we do in our lives affects those before us and affect those after us. And what King David did affected what King Solomon had to go through and the things that he did during his time of reigning. But not only King Solomon, but the people of Israel. So I want to lay that foundation out there right there. Cool. So what did King Solomon do in the art of endurance? What happened? So if we look at 1 Kings 3, that's when we see Solomon's ask. He's asking God, because God's like, hey Solomon, twin, what you need? I got you. What you need? I got you. What you need? I got you. What you need?
I got you, homie.
All of that. So King Solomon asked God, I need wisdom so that I can properly lead your people. His ask was pertaining to the growth of God's kingdom and ensuring that it went to where God wanted it to go and it was not self-serving. So God said, cool, I got you. Let me lock in on this. And so what God ends up doing is ensuring that not only does Solomon have the wisdom that no one else will ever have in his time or after, he ensures that Solomon has riches that follows with it, because again, Solomon's intention was not pull from God in a negative way to self-glorify, but to actually ensure that what he's doing is a instrument in God's machine to go forward in the future. Then we get to 1 Kings 5. In 1 Kings 5, that's King Solomon's environment, the people around him. He has his ass, God has blessed him. Now he's in an environment. Y'all be like, what's up with the environment? What that got to do with enduring? The people around you and the places that you are represents who you are in a lot of aspects. You begin to identify with your environment. And that's a bad thing to be if you're not in a place where God is supposed to be dwelling. And so, what does that mean? What does King Solomon do in lieu of his environment? He creates a tabernacle. He creates a space to where God can be reverenced and loved. And for the next 20 years after this tabernacle is built, King Solomon is flowing into it. He's praying for his people. He's ensuring that things are going right in the kingdom that way that God intended. He's ensuring that his environment stays pro-God and he remains in the favor of God. Calm. I like that. Now, that moves us to 1 Kings 9, where we have to talk about King Solomon's stewardship. Because when it comes with the ask, it has to glorify God. So your ask must be glorifying to God. Understandable. Your environment must be a reflection of your relationship with God or your relationship of getting closer to him. It should look like what you're doing with God. That's what the goal should be like. The goal is always to have God reflected in who you are and what you're around. Calm. I like that. Now, that pushes us to stewardship, because now once you get your ask and your environment is where you need to be and God has continually added blessings into your life, you now have to be responsible over it. Calm. I like that. Long story short, King Solomon has now presided over the kingdom of Israel for over 20 years. People from all over the globe, kings, queens, are now coming to Solomon for his wisdom and his understanding. He has created treaties with his father's friends, and he's created a space to where everybody is in a prosperous state. So now we see three things that came from the endurance of David. We have a prosperous nation, wisdom that was blessed and given unto Solomon, and we have a place to where God is the center of the environment, which means everything is going to flourish. Now, let's be clear here. What happens after that? The fall of Solomon is in 1 Kings 11 through 12. King Solomon allows his environment to fade away because he loves foreign women. He loves these people and is allowing their ideals to encroach upon what God had called him to do. Now, how does that connect with us? A lot of us are like, well, I love this person. Me and them, we locked in. We best friends. We boyfriend, girlfriend, all of that. Whole time, they're bringing you further and further away from what God called you to do. And because of that, they're infiltrating what God already set forth for you to be blessed and prosper and all of that great stuff. But now you have to, now you're slowly dividing yourself from God. Now you're slowly dividing yourself from God. Because you love this person so much. And I'm gonna say it like this. God calls us to love, but God also calls us to guard our hearts. But if they begin to encroach on your relationship with Christ, you need to fall back.
Lean back, lean back, lean back.
And Solomon did not fall back, which brings us to the second part, which is the enduring, the art of enduring. How did Solomon respond to his environment beginning to shift because of the people in his camp? Solomon now starts erecting statues of false gods, spending money on dumb stuff. He has 700 wives, 300 concubines. He doing all kind of stuff. He done lost his mind. And so what does God do? God now does exactly what he said he would do when he was talking to Solomon before. If you go against me, I will raise adversaries around you. And that's exactly what he does. God raises adversaries. Mind you, Solomon is a peacetime king. He has not seen war. He does not do war. He does not understand what's about to transpire. Solomon gets further from God, which then what leads to what? Because of the decisions that he made, that pushes us into Lamentations. Because guess what? Between King Solomon's decision to flee from God and in the book of Lamentations, the Babylonian Empire swallows up Israel, both the land of Judah and the kingdom of Israel, because at this point it was a split kingdom. And now where does that leave us? The people in Lamentations, specifically we can talk about Jeremiah the prophet, who is now talking about how he has lost hope and he is struggling, but regardless, even in the midst of struggle, God is good. Even in the midst of decisions that have actively hurt our community and our people and the things that we love, God still remains. Though God handed them over into a space in which they were in punishment because of the choices that were made from the generation above them, from the leaders around them, from the people around them, God still remained in the midst. And in that midst And that plan, and in that goal, and in that judgment, the path was already being paved for the coming of Christ. The purpose of endurance is for us to understand and to long suffer until we're able to get the lesson that God has called us to. For a lot of us, endurance is just what we asked God for when we first came to Christ and asked when we were on fire for him. Saying, God, what can I do? God, show me. God, I'm excited. Put me through something so that I can understand where I can get closer to you. And God does that. And the decisions that we've made are passed down not only to generations with the people around us. And so the people around us, if we're doing goofball stuff, guess what? The people around us and the people under us are now going to experience goofball activities because we lacked it, because the endurance in which we were supposed to go through is not reflective of what God called us to do. Because remember, even in the times of struggle, we still have free will. And so just like how King David during his struggle decided to follow and be faithful to what God called him to do, King Solomon was able to reap the benefits. King Solomon, who was placed into a space of opportunity and prosperity, decided to flee away from God and stray away from him. The people of Israel struggled after. His sons inherited a divided kingdom after. And now we have to endure this time of struggle and strife and pain because of the situations in which we were putting ourselves in, the generation before us and the generation after us. And so for us, enduring is not just a space of, okay, God, I'm gonna just sit here and hunker down until it's over. In the space of enduring, we have to move. We have to be like, okay, God, what am I to be doing in this season so that I can be a perfect representation of you? So I can be a representation of you. So when people see me, though I'm struggling, though I'm persisting, though I'm in the swamp, though I'm out in the wilderness, you still persist and people can see that. What do I do? And that brings us to the enduring again. The art of endurance boils down to three things. Your ask, which is your why. Why are you asking for this? Your environment. Where are you at and who's around you? And number three, your ability to be responsible during this time in the wilderness. The world doesn't stop when we get into the wilderness. But God is with us and he is showing us the path that we're supposed to be going. And because those are the steps that God has called us to do, those are good steps. And if we follow them instead of going further into the wilderness, following our own path, our endurance will grow. Each and every time we go through a period of trial and endurance, the times in which we endured before will pose a place of hope to where God is going to lead us out of. So that not only we can understand where God is leading us, but the people in our care and those around us will be able to reap the benefits of God leading us and showing us and putting us through this season of endurance. Endurance builds character. Endurance is necessary to get to where you need to be. Diamonds are created because coal is put under pressure. This very dull, black looking rock put under pressure turns into a beautiful gem. And that's what God is calling us to do in each of our enduring seasons. He's calling us to refine ourselves and be more pressured and get in a space of being uncomfortable. Because once he is finished with you and the product is put out, you are a beautiful gem. And you can honestly say, and people can say, you don't look like what you went through. And people will see God's reflection in you and in your actions because of the things that God called you to endure. And guess what? When people see a diamond, they get happy. And in the same way, when God is done with you and your enduring seasons, when people see you, they will be happy because they'll be able to see the blessings and the lessons and the opportunities and hear your testimony in which God had called for you to do. I ain't gonna lie, that's it, y'all. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Listen, Lamentations 3. That's what I was talking about today. Lamentations 3. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And that's it for Bible Bootcamp for today.
D&D my telephone. I like to be drama free. Can't just live off bread alone. Lucy try to pop at me.